Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin bubble news channel. There are many things going on at once. The government of Germany sold some Bitcoin. It has been 10 years since MT. Gox filed for bankruptcy, and now about 140,000 Bitcoins will be made available. Because of all of these things going on at the same time, there has been some selling pressure in the ETF. We still really like the basics of Bitcoin in the long run. Now that it's been looked at, about 80% of those flows seem to be retail, not yet real institutions going in. So I've talked to a lot of people who run RIAs or big companies, and it takes them a while to go through their investment process, look at the risks, give their approval, and then put the money into the right places. We should start seeing a lot more institutional money flow into those ETFs in the second half of this year, maybe at the end of Q3 or the start of Q4. Still, I think that's enough to make the price go back up in September and after. The cryptocurrency market has been unstable over the past few days, which can be seen in the usually negative mood of investors. The market-based crypto worry and greed index has dropped into worry levels for the first time since October 2023. This is because people are worried that big changes might not happen soon. As shown by data that is stored on the blockchain, the German Federal Criminal Police Office has been moving thousands of Bitcoin from its official wallets since June 19, 2024. Reports from earlier this week said that the German government sent more than $220 million worth of Bitcoin to different exchanges and over-the-counter OTC markets. It has moved at least 9,736 Bitcoin worth about $564.3 million in the last 24 hours, and the transfers are likely to keep happening until the wallets are empty. The German government has sold 34,749 Bitcoin since the middle of June. At the present price, each Bitcoin is worth about $22.01 billion. According to new information, the government may run out of Bitcoin before the end of the week. But there is still a lot of doubt about other headwinds, such as the MT, the redistribution of Gox assets, and the overall state of the economy. Anthony Scaramucci, founder of Skybridge Capital and former White House Director of Communications, and Anthony Pamplino, a popular Bitcoin enthusiast and YouTuber, were recently interviewed by CNBC. They talked about the current state of the crypto market and what they think the future holds for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies after 2024. They also talked about ETFs, the rules and regulations, and the upcoming US election and how it might affect the crypto market, offering Bitcoin for sale. After 10 years, MT Gox has finally filed for bankruptcy, which will now free up about 140,000 Bitcoins. Because of that, both Skybridge and Fortress took part. All of these things are happening at the same time that there is some push to sell the ETF. Because of this, Bitcoin is a risky investment when that happens. It's not my place to explain Bitcoin terms to you, but you also had a halving. I think our people know what that means. When the value of Bitcoin is cut in half, miners have to sell some of their coins to keep making money. This puts short-term pressure on Bitcoin. There are some things we still love about Bitcoin though. As I already said, I think it will be 170,000 after the cut, but I think it can get to 100,000 by the end of the year. For now though, it has to keep going. One last quick point, yes. As soon as possible, FTX will give about $16 billion in cash to buyers who had accounts at FTX. I think that's great news for people who own Bitcoin since a lot of that was in Bitcoin. It was put on hold during the bankruptcy. Unfortunately, it was turned into dollars at low numbers for Bitcoin, but it will soon be sent back to those account users. We believe that a lot of that money may go into the asset. These are known as life chips if you get a fortune like that. You're betting that you won't get that money back. You can buy a house, a car, or a summer house. But I believe that 40 to 50% of that will be put back into the asset class. I mean, these are really tough people. I remember that they were also early adopters. If you had an account at FTX or now have an account at Coinbase, you were one of the first people to use digital assets. Because of this, early users tend to be loyal to the asset class. Now let me take you back to the early days of Uber. The government, the mayor, or any other official did not want Uber. Everyone in charge said no to Uber, but people still wanted it. And something new that was added to the GOP platform today, their conference is next week, is clear support for protecting digital assets, especially Bitcoin. I believe that is a big mistake on the part of the Democrats. It seems like they're dropping the ball when it comes to digital goods. Okay, it's no longer a narrow business. Based on what Mike Novogratz said, you could say that there are 85 million wallets. I believe Coinbase released around 50 million keys. Let us cut them down. Let's say that there are only 20 million people in the United States who are able to vote. Let's say that 10% of them only vote for one subject. 2 million people could vote in an election that is very close and will be decided by 6 or 7 swing states. These people could be digital asset voters who only care about one topic. I believe this to be a strong statement that this will be a good long-term asset class in the United States. I don't care about the other side if that's the case. What's going to happen before the election? What do you think? What do you hear? What's going on? I think President Biden is clearly set in his ways. He did badly in the debate, but it looks like he will be the choice. In the swing state where votes matter most right now, former President Trump is ahead. I like the market. I know you like the stock market. It looks like the poly markets are on Team Trump right now, but these are still close races. Right now, there are many things to choose from. This week, the VP process will come up for you. On September 10th, you have another discussion. I think President Biden needs to really show what he's been trying to do over the last few days if he wants to stay in the race. He was on our sister network, Morning Joe, this morning. He gave a very clear speech on Morning Joe, but he's having trouble stringing words together, which must be a worry for everyone. So we'll see how everything goes. There's no doubt that they will need to decide by the end of this week. Of course, prices drop when there are more sellers than buyers. So who is selling? And there are really only 2 big people to blame right now. It's been hard for the German government to get rid of the 50,000 Bitcoin they take from a website that pirates. If you look at the on-chain data, it's interesting to see that they're trying to sell at as many platforms as possible. They're now about halfway through that. It's about $2.5 billion. They've sold around $1.5 billion. The Mt. Gox Bitcoin that has been given out is another one. So I think more people are afraid, hey, if billions of dollars are given back, are these people who haven't had any cash for years just going to sell it? Really interesting is that Bitcoin is still not very easy to buy or sell. So most of the Bitcoin out there is owned by people who think about the long term. So the price will go down when someone comes along with only a few $1 billion. Now, that sounds pretty strong, right? If I told you that someone was going to come sell billions of dollars, the price would only go down to about $55,000, right? It looks like this is making people think, hey, look, Bitcoin is still pretty healthy. Over 70% of Bitcoin had not changed in over a year at the start of this year. 70%. So very high. Because the price has gone up, some of that has started to be spread out. This is what you would expect in a bull market. So the main question right now is how strong those hands are and how long they will last after the German government falls. Will they last longer than these Mt. Gox distributions? Because of this, I think that number will go back down to around 50 to 55% as the bull market goes on. Still, it's likely that at least half of the Bitcoin is owned by people who plan to hold on to it for at least 10 years. Now that it's been looked at, about 80% of those flows seem to be retailed and not real institutions going in yet. So I've talked to a lot of people who run RIAs or big companies, and it takes them a while to go through their investment process, look at the risks, give their approval, and then put the money into the right places. I think that in the second half of this year, maybe at the end of Q3 or the start of Q4, a lot more institutional money will start to move into those ETFs, the base trade as well. A lot of people bought Bitcoins and sold